So they're back with the masks. I think we all knew they'd come back to them. I'm going to let them go. But hopefully, I mean, Boris come out, didn't he? What did he say? You know, we need to look at tightening up our mask wearing and social distancing measures. Make sure they're more strictly adhered to. I think Michael Gove came out and reiterated that it's going to be optional. Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. Until it'll be optional, but you won't have access to anything unless you do these things. Which we've been saying for months now. It's going to be mandatory mask wearing at some point. Already bought it in Scotland, haven't they? Nicola Sturgeon. I mean, her face said it already. But hopefully things like this, I mean, it's sometimes life can gift you its greatest things at your worst moments. And I mean, things like this, it's so ridiculous. I mean, it's bringing in mandatory mask wearing now is akin to bringing condoms to a baby shower. I mean, it defies logic. The World Health Organization came out already, said that, you know, we shouldn't be wearing masks in public unless you're sick. Likewise, backed up by the NHS, right at the beginning of the pandemic, came out and said that on one of their press conferences. So them going full circle on this. I mean, hopefully, by doing that, it's gonna shake a few people out of ignorance almost, because I mean the lies are building and building and building, and it's getting to the point in the minute where they can pretty much do or say whatever they like. People are just gobbling it up, taking it, going about their day. 1 and 1 equals 3, all over the place. Just double think, just left, right, and centre. It's been from day one. But I mean, it needs to be said. I mean, if you don't realise that they've got you bent over and they're fucking up the ass already, then I don't know what is going to shake you out of that. I really don't. But I did see the UK column did a good piece. They've been brilliant through this whole thing. Stats and statistics on the Public Health Officer Guidance, which gives them a hell of a lot of powers that they don't already have, and it'll be done in the consultancy role, which, I mean, you can appoint practically anyone, I imagine, as a consultant, if you set the requirement for that role. But they do go into a lot of the analysis of how it's essentially going to the home, and you can take children, people from them, with someone as a designated responsible adult that they can deem, which the WHO come out earlier in the whole thing a couple of months back and stated that they'd be looking to go into people's homes. So I mean, it's just step by step, piece by piece. But I did see on WikiLies, Wikipedia of all things, this last yesterday evening. It's a piece you just look on, you go from thread to thread, clicking on links, all sorts, going down rabbit holes. I stumbled across this on Wikipedia of all places in regards to isolation, and the title of it is Isolation to Facilitate Abuse. Now I'll just read it to you. So isolation, physical, social or emotional, is often used to facilitate power and control over someone for an abusive purpose. This applies in many contexts such as workplace bullying, elder abuse, domestic abuse, child abuse and cults. What we're seeing right now is the government aspect of that, which you could trace through governments to what would be considered a cult. Isolation reduces the opportunity of the abused to be rescued or escape from the abuse. It also helps disorientate the abused and makes the abused more dependent on the abuser. The degree of power and control over the abused is contingent upon the degree of their physical or emotional isolation. Isolation of the victim from the outside world is an important element of psychological control. Isolation includes controlling a person's social activity, whom they see, whom they talk to, where they go, and any other method to limit their access to others. It may also include limiting what material is read. It can include insisting on knowing where they are and requiring permission for medical care. The abuser exhibits hypersensitive and reactive jealousy. Like, this is mainly an assessing of a relationship, but you can see the same patterns emerging here. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Isolation can be aided by 4 things. It splits it to: first, economic abuse, thus limiting the victim's actions. They may then lack the necessary resources to resist or escape from the abuse. Systematic destruction of businesses, telling people they can't work, etc., etc. 2, smearing or discrediting the abused amongst their community so the abused does not get help or support from others, such as fact-checking, such as name-calling conspiracy theorists, inverted commas, perpetuation of that ideology. Part 3, divide and conquer. As we've seen with Black Lives Matter, you also see with a lot of the gender issues, which are, again, a perpetuation of George Soros is involved in much of that. Brexit, he was behind the Remain in massive parts in the propaganda aspect of that. And then we have, coming on to part 4, gaslighting and mind control, which we've seen in terms of the intentionally differing information, the double think that's been going on throughout this. The 3s, that they keep giving everything as a message in 3s, which is a form of mind control. There are a lot of triggers, they're using the word trigger. There's a whole aspect of things like that, and you put people into a sense of trauma, they're more susceptible to these things. Which, again, this isn't anything that they're not absolutely familiar with. But I just thought that was interesting. It does go on with other bits on the article. So, I mean, in terms of cults, various isolation techniques may be used by cults: separating from family and community, taking control of the handling of the victim's resources and property, undoing mind control, so taking away existing ideologies almost that you have from society, from your community, from your family, physical isolation, extortion, dependency tactics, controlling the victim's access to necessities. I mean, this isn't specifically in terms of that, but you can see it ticks every single box. And if this was in a relationship aspect, you would be in a severely abusive relationship. Severely, a mind-controlled relationship that are using you to their means, that are creating a reality which isn't true at all. And yet, by doing what they're doing, you're succumbing to that reality because of the reasons that this explains. It's very simple when it's in black and white. Just another thing as well with what happened to the rise in deaths of the riots. Was it 18.5 days from infection to death on average? I think they stated somewhere earlier in the pandemic. June the 7th, wasn't it? The Colston statue was brought down. What are we now? What's that? 5 weeks later? Nothing. They changed the cases though. Coincidence. I mean, that tells you everything you need to know. Tells you everything you need to know that there's no virus which is contagious. There's no virus which spreads from person to person. It's not going to be selective. It's not going to think, hang on, I'll have a day off today. So I'll give a few people they're writing in for a good cause. I'll give them a break. I'll wait for those pensioners to pop out for their shopping in the morning. Fucking bullshit, and wake up. And while we're on that, I mean, let's just say for a second the virus does exist. It does exist. Factual evidence, been proven. Through Koch's postulates, it's never been done. But let's just say it's been done. CDC, and this has gone down massively since all this testing, is obviously by having increased cases, positive tests, but no increase in deaths. The case fatality rate obviously lower. So it's going to be dropping massively. But let's just say for a second it does. Whole 100%. CDC have given it 0.26%. That was, what was that? A month back now. 0.26%. That includes all of the other underlying health conditions which I suggest it's probably 0, you take them away. That includes all of them. Now this equates to, let's just put this in perspective. If you're under 70, it was 0.04%. Now flu is about 0.1. So it's 2.5 times less virulent than the flu, which is again something you don't catch. But let's just assume by their medication criteria that this is all medical criteria, everything's true. That's 2.5 times less virulent than the flu if you're under 70. Let's take it a bit lower. If you're under 60, you'd have an equal chance of drowning. And if you're under 20, you have an equal chance of being killed by lightning. And we want to stay in our homes. Anyway, take it steady, everyone. Peace and love. All the best.